Hi there. George R. R. Martin himself just posted a blog update confirming that all filming for every episode has wrapped for House of the Dragon Season 1. Every episode, I think the last set was Gita Patel's episode, everything is finished. The day before that, this happened right after I made a separate video for the head of HBO, Casey Bloys, gave an interview with Deadline in which he confirmed, yes, the final set. We've been seeing cast and crew posting wrap party photos on Instagram for a couple of days, but it varies from one episode to the next who's wrapped for which set of scenes. But head of HBO confirmed they're wrapped. Then, I think it must have been less than 24 hours later, but it was after I dashed off a quick video, Martin himself confirming we have wrapped filming. And as I said in the head of HBO video, and I think they actually explained pretty fairly and sympathetically, guys, the reason we haven't been announcing a premiere date is because we were afraid, what if we announce a date and then there's another COVID spike which infects the cast and crew, shuts down production for a couple of weeks. There's real financial backlash and real effects if we announce a date and then have to delay it. It made more sense not to announce a date. This is also the reason we haven't been seeing new trailers, promos, or even more teasers. That they put out the first one just to have something out. I think it's because of the international expansion wave that was happening beginning of October. But either way, Bloys himself said, you will hear a premiere date soon, and because filming is wrapped, you will start seeing more promos like trailers in the near future. All of this is coming together, and that's why they weren't COVID stuff. I don't blame them for COVID stuff. I recognize that's beyond their control. I'd rather they don't rush it and endanger the cast and crew, that it's slower because we're being safe and taking everyone's temperature before we film things and stuff like that. But what was the reaction of Martin himself, and what did he say about what he thinks the premiere date will be? So let me read this off. The whole post is short. I'll link it below. Go and read the whole thing, but this is the important parts. Quote, George R. R. Martin, I have seen rough cuts for a few of the episodes. A month ago, he said, I've seen a rough cut of the first episode. This means they've shown him the rough cuts of multiple episodes now. So I've seen rough cuts of a few of them, and I'm loving them. Of course, a lot more work needs to be done. These are rough cuts. They don't have special effects, color grading, the music score isn't in yet. All of that's post-production work. But the writing, the directing, and the acting all look terrific. I hope you will like them as much as I do. My hat is off to Ryan and Miguel and their team, and to our amazing cast. Now, Talking Thrones managed to post a reaction before I did. I've been busy on my end with, I talked in other videos, my family's having medical problems, but yeah, a lot of news came out in the past 48 hours, just as I wasn't in much of a position to report on them, and I'm trying to catch up. As Talking Thrones pointed out, some people might say, oh, this is just generic praise. He didn't need to say anything. You never come out and say something publicly negative due to NDAs and you want to stay on the studio's good side, but he just kept his mouth shut during the later seasons of Game of Thrones. Not just Season 8, but after Season 5, he wouldn't remark on it, which is the most negative you're allowed to be. Or that insane Long Night prequel, which the leaks for it were insane. They had crazy ideas for it. He just didn't say anything. He doesn't need to be praising them this positively, and we've seen that. When he didn't like something, he wouldn't say anything. So there's all sorts of worries now about now that the Lord of the Rings teaser came out. And like I said, I haven't really seen any major problems yet, only because we know so little about it. But when I actually read the description in Vanity Fair of, well, this is what Galadriel's doing, why she's in Faradwaith and stuff, it's, okay, that isn't absurd yet. I'll have to see it myself to judge it. But we have the living author, that's Tolkien and his estate, trying to put something together, and I still don't know if we'll like it or not, to be honest. I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt just to be the better man. But this is a living author, the American Tolkien, saying, I really like this adaptation of one of the prequel novellas I wrote up. This is very encouraging. And the contrast between that of the living author himself is saying, I've seen rough cuts of this, and it's a pretty good prequel based on outlines I wrote. that they're finished outlines. They're not to the level of dialogue. They're in-universe history books. But as a story structure, like, we know the major story beats. They can't just make up something to the effect of Arya kills the Night King, and, oh yeah, we thought of that 3 years ago, and admitting they made it up. Yeah, the general story beats, if we know things on the scale of, like, the Red Wedding, Martin said he knew before he wrote the first book, like, and he's continued to say, I know who lives and dies, that anyone who read the source material, Fire and Blood, knows who lives and dies. The last season has just as much material as the first season. That we know enough. We don't have dialogue for it, but they have writers to come up with stuff. I'm really encouraged by this. But the more interesting thing was the second half of what Martin said. Not just all this praise, he's actually seen multiple episodes now. He himself was mostly working with Condal on the first one because that was supposed to be the pilot. He said, I've seen the other ones, I love them too. Everything looks great. There's post-production needs to happen, but that isn't as affected by COVID. That's why they're more willing to announce a premiere date soon. But the second half of what he said here. So, when will you see House of the Dragon, you ask? When will we see the dragons dance? I wish I could tell you. Lots of work remains to be done, as I said, all the post-production, and COVID makes planning difficult. It's not just that they won't tell us, sometimes they can't, because, COVID's messed everything up. So when, and this is quoting Martin, this spring? Unlikely. Maybe summer? Could be. Fall? Who knows? You'll know when we do. So he's confirming that when I find out, I will tell you. I'm not sitting on an answer. So the main takeaway from this update and from this specific video is Martin himself just said, quote, a spring premiere is unlikely. I have been saying this since back in, I think, October, when Matt Smith gave that podcast interview, and he said, we are filming through late January. And they probably got slowed down, not shut down, but slowed down due to COVID stuff of just being safe, pausing. They ultimately finished mid-February, not last week of January. These weren't pickup shots. These were, real filming. They only posted, we're getting wrap party photos just in the past 24 hours that, like, Olivia Cook posted. I'm going to make a separate video about that. That it takes about 4 months to do post-production, and with all the VFX they need to do, and they could have been doing some of this concurrently. Some of it they physically couldn't. Obviously, they could make CGI for the things they filmed back in May, but for stuff they were filming in November, or if they were filming major dragon scenes in January, and that's not even getting into the, post-production, not just CGI, but like any show, like The Crown or Succession, is part of the art that you need to, as Martin listed off, the editing, the music, the color grading, all of this is an art unto itself. And it was increasingly implausible that they would meet a spring premiere. Because, as I've repeated, the Emmy eligibility cutoff date for this year would be May 1st. That you have to air half of your first season before the end of May. For a 10-episode show like this, that's May 1st. And I kept looking at it and going, the dates don't match up. We don't have 3 to 4 months. If they're wrapping now, they're not going to get the first episode out in 2 months or so. That it's not happening. 2.5 months, that is really too fast. Moreover, they want to have a build-up time of a promotional blitz. And I don't blame them for that, that you need to have, no matter how many TV trailers and ads you put out, we've seen almost nothing about this show, and we have spy photos, but the public has seen a teaser trailer, one teaser trailer, and a few promo pics. That for general audiences, you need more than 1 month to be running promos and trailers. No matter how many you put out, it's a matter of time. That just to get it in the public consciousness, that it would be a really rushed promotion. We would have seen more already. Even maybe they'll start tomorrow, okay? Because filming just wrapped. There is an outside chance that if they start, like, tomorrow, heavily promoting this for a May 1st release, we might, but it's just the pieces aren't stacking up for that. And now Martin himself has said that a spring release is unlikely. And again, I said this is because of basketball finals, that They put stuff out in early May, and that's to meet the Emmy cutoff. And yeah, the finale will be against basketball finals in early June, but that's outweighed by, well, it's to win an Emmy. If they're not going to be able to compete it for an Emmy, it's not worth airing it against basketball finals. So I've said this in other videos. If they fail to meet the May 1st cutoff date, they will wait until after basketball finals are over, June 26th at the earliest. Which in my title cards, I round to a July premiere, because June 26th is basically July, and I want to get you in the mindset of it's most of June this wouldn't be in. That this is the bulk of it is in July. I'm rounding to the next month over because it's practically there. Another piece of evidence backing this up, and this just happened today, Random House, the publishing company, is re-releasing a new tie-in version of Fire and Blood, just a reprint, for just to get supplies up, because people are going to be buying this a lot when they rush into season 1. Even though we've been telling everyone buy Fire and Blood, a lot of people haven't. There's going to be another sales boom because of the TV show. So they're doing another print run, and they're going to make it one of those tie-in things. You know, like when you see copies of The Lord of the Rings that has pictures of the movie characters in it. I'm not offended by that, because they generally got the look right for most characters, like with a picture of Viggo Mortensen's Aragorn on the cover, or like not just on the cover, but in the center, you know, where they intercut it with cast photos. This got increasingly insulting with Game of Thrones, that you have seen like season 5 or season 7 or sometimes even season 8 photos shoved into books that they are not based on. But they do this with like Mockingjay, with the Hunger Games series. Like, you'll see a reprint of the Hunger Games filled with a dozen or 2 dozen high-quality image prints from the movie adaptation. Well, Random House just announced that they're putting out a new tie-in version of Fire and Blood, which means it's got pictures of everyone in full costume in it, set to release on July 12th. Which further indicates, just it's one more piece of evidence in context, that they don't think this is coming out before July. And maybe that's a little before the premiere, maybe that's a month after the premiere, that might just be as quickly as they can print it. But if you're trying to make tie-in books, you try to time it to before something is coming out. That doesn't even rule out a fall premiere. What if there's a filming delay again for whatever reason? They might hold it until the fall, but that we're seeing the tie-in thing as late as July, broadly speaking, means we're not looking at a May premiere. Combined with that the living author himself, who's saying, I'm telling you as much as I know, George R. R. Martin's own words, a spring premiere is, quote, unlikely. And he isn't even going to rule out an autumn premiere. Like, I used to say that was absurd. Now I'm kind of 50-50 on that, to be honest. This is a lot of discussion we've been having on the subforums and on social media the past few days of, yeah, they might actually be willing to run this against the Lord of the Rings prequel. That even Casey Bloys, the head of HBO, when they asked him in like Deadline stuff, oh, aren't you worried about running this against Lord of the Rings? And he goes, well, we're HBO. Of course, our show is bigger. Why should we worry? And you think that's just him blustering, but then again, maybe they really think this is the thing that can run against it. I wouldn't, but maybe they think that. But I consider that unlikely, but you never know. What we do know is that HBO prefers to run only one drama show on Sunday nights. And unless that's changed, and it probably won't, the Sunday night show right now is Euphoria, which ends at the end of February. They just announced that the LA Lakers show Winning Time premieres on March 6th. So it'll go from Euphoria to Winning Time, the story of the Lakers dynasty. And we know how many episodes that is. Winning Time will end in the Sunday night spot on May 8th. They're not going to double them up. That means that House of the Dragon will not be running on Sunday, May 1st. It will miss the Emmy cutoff. And then why run a 10-episode show in late May to early June, opposite the height of basketball finals? They never do that. So with all of these pieces coming in today, that we found out the schedule for, I'm counting on my fingers, you can't see, we found out the schedule for Winning Time goes past the May 1st deadline. We found out that Random House is timing their tie-ins to be July. the new tie-in version of Fire and Blood, the reprint with photos in it, which means it's at least coming out by July, last week of June, maybe fall. That doesn't rule out a fall thing, but they don't think this is coming out in May. Otherwise, they would have tried to print it sooner. That's one more piece. I think the winning time thing is a bigger piece of evidence. And Living Author says spring release unlikely. I'm not that worried about this because in terms of news sites having stuff to talk about, I don't need a full season right now. And in fact, I kind of be overwhelmed by it. So I'm not going, oh, on my end, I have a backlog. I know you guys need to watch stuff, but what I do want to have is a steady stream of new teaser trailers, casting announcements, and character promo photos. Like, I am upset that we don't have a trailer. So I'm not, because, it's the anticipation. I'm trying to build up to season 1's actual premiere, and I don't want to rush the show. But, guys, can't you show us a couple of different recut teaser trailers, like announcing officially that Tom Glencarny is playing Aegon II, like all these other people we figured out, but we haven't seen him in full costume. I am growing very impatient for more promo materials, and we suspect that they're going to have this big promo special, like a 20, 30-minute thing. We've heard some rumor they're going to have one, like, at the end of March, beginning of April. There's going to be this looking ahead to House of the Dragon TV special with a lot of interviews. That isn't confirmed. But yeah, I want to have new promo materials to talk about leading up to this. Like, look how much people were picking apart every new Spider-Man No Way Home promo for months, and every Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness promo. And it's like a half-hour video based on just one new teaser. That's enough to keep our online community going in terms of discussion. So I really want all of that stuff, but the winning time thing, the publication tie-ins, the fact that they've just wrapped now, and the timeline, and that Martin himself said, quote, it's unlikely. This will not be before June 26th. It might even be later than June 26th at some point in July. I'll explain that later. Basically, others have pointed out to me maybe they'll wait until the end of July so they can have a big marketing blitz at San Diego Comic-Con, which would make a good deal of sense, but that would mean the show would overlap with Lord of the Rings in September. Then again, maybe they're willing to do that as long as they start first, and they've said things that we're not afraid of Lord of the Rings. And thinking on this, and looking at their schedule, figuring out the puzzle pieces of where their schedule goes, I actually came to a realization of what I think they're doing with the schedule and how they're going to handle this. But that deserves its own focus, because it's so big. And to draw attention to it, I'm going to split that off into another video after this one, a direct sequel to this. This is focused on Martin himself said spring premiere is unlikely. Next video is going to be what I think they're doing, and then I'll explain my reasoning behind it.